Commander Vexthal's prosthetic arm whirred softly as he adjusted the ceremonial sash across his scared carapace. The grand chamber of the Galactic Council loomed before him, its crystalline architecture designed to intimidate lesser species. But after 20 cycles of warfare, very little intimidated him anymore. The chamber's bioluminescent walls pulsed with the agitation of the assembled council members. 200 of the galaxy's most powerful beings, representing species that had mastered faster-than-light travel millennia before humans had invented the wheel, gathered to hear his testimony. Their expressions ranged from dismissive to hostile. High Counselor Zinra, her translucent tentacles coiled tightly and barely contained frustration, spoke first. "Commander Vexthal, you stand before this council with an unprecedented request: the immediate cessation of all military actions against Terra, known to its inhabitants as Earth. Explain yourself." Vexthal activated the holographic display embedded in his prosthetic arm. The chamber darkened as images of burning ships and shattered fleets filled the air around them. "Honored Council, what you see are the remains of the 7th Expeditionary Force. 3,000 ships, 12 million warriors, the finest technology in the galaxy, destroyed in less than 6 planetary rotations." Murmurs rippled through the assembly. A Kralnik representative, his crystalline form gleaming with skepticism, interrupted. "Impossible. Our intelligence indicates the humans barely have interplanetary capability. They're confined to their solar system." "Precisely." Vexthal's mandibles clicked in grim amusement. "They defeated our fleet without a single faster-than-light vessel. They did it with primitive nuclear weapons, kinetic strikes, and something they call guerrilla tactics. But most importantly, they did it without fear." He gestured, and a hologram shifted to show human soldiers fighting in various environments: Arctic wastes, burning deserts, dense jungles. The Council operates under a fundamental misconception about warfare. We view it as a necessary evil, a tool of last resort. Humans view it as an art form. An art form. High Counselor Zinra's bioluminescence flickered with disgust. "They're barbarians." "No," Vexthal's voice carried the weight of his experience. "Barbarians are predictable. Humans are something else entirely. While we perfect energy weapons, they experiment with projectiles that ignore our shields. While we develop sophisticated battle computers, they train their warriors to think independently and adapt instantly. While we seek to minimize casualties, they embrace the chaos of combat." The hologram showed a particular battle that still haunted Vexthal's dreams. A single human vessel, heavily damaged, ramming itself into the flagship of the 7th Fleet. The resulting explosion had created a chain reaction that destroyed 300 ships. "We lost that battle not because they were stronger or more advanced, but because they simply refused to accept defeat." The human commander, when offered honorable surrender, responded with what I'm told is an ancient human battle cry: "I haven't begun to fight." A younger council member, representing the Mechanoid Collective, spoke up. "But surely their limited numbers are irrelevant." Vexthal cut in. "We documented humans fighting with broken limbs, terminal injuries, and catastrophic system failures. Their determination doesn't decrease with their losses, it intensifies. And now, thanks to our attacks, they're adapting our own technology at an alarming rate." He displayed final footage. Human engineers reverse engineering galactic weapons, improving them, making them deadlier. "We didn't find a primitive species to conquer. We found a sleeping giant and taught it how to reach the stars. Every attack we launch serves only to accelerate their development." The chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. High Counselor Zinra's tentacles had gone completely still, a sign of deep disturbance in her species. "What do you propose, Commander?" "Immediate peace negotiations, conducted on their terms. Not because we can't win, although I doubt we can, but because every cycle we spend fighting them makes them stronger. They don't fear war. They adapt to it, thrive in it, perfect it. They've turned warfare into a crucible that forges them into something more dangerous with each engagement." Vexthol's prosthetic arm whirred again as he clenched his fist. I've lost 3 limbs fighting humans. I've watched them turn our most sophisticated weapons against us. I've seen them sacrifice themselves without hesitation to protect their companions. We must make peace while we can still offer it as equals. The council chamber erupted in heated debate, but Vexthol noticed something important. The most experienced military leaders in the room, those who had faced humans directly, were the quietest. They sat in grim silence, their expressions showing the same haunted recognition he felt. As the arguments raged around him, Vexthol's mind wandered to his final battle against the humans. He remembered the young human commander who'd led the suicide run that had cost him his last organic arm. Just before impact, their communications had picked up the humans' final transmission to their forces. For those I love, I will sacrifice everything. That, Vexthol knew, was why the Empire couldn't win. They'd fought for glory, for territory, for resources. Humans fought for each other. And that made them more dangerous than any weapon in the galaxy. The holographic display in the council chamber shifted, and Vexthol's voice grew heavier with memory. You ask for proof of humanity's capabilities. Let me show you how our first attempt at diplomatic contact became a military catastrophe. The images coalesced to show a massive vessel approaching Earth's orbit. The Harbinger of Dawn, pride of the Imperial diplomatic fleet, its crystalline spires gleaming in the light of Earth's sun. We thought we were being generous, Vexthol continued, approaching openly, broadcasting our presence on all frequencies. Our translation matrices had decoded enough of their communications to form basic dialogue. But we made our first mistake before we even arrived. The hologram zoomed in on Earth's orbital space. Dozens of primitive satellites and space stations dotted the void, along with what appeared to be debris. We dismissed these as junk, cluttering their orbital spaces. We were wrong. They were watching posts, early warning systems, and automated defense platforms disguised as debris. The scene continued to play out. The Harbinger of Dawn, following standard protocol, deployed its shield array, a defensive measure meant to demonstrate peaceful intentions while ensuring safety. On Earth, however, this action triggered an immediate response. Their orbital defense networks interpreted our shield activation as a hostile action. Within minutes, their entire planet mobilized for war. But here's what truly surprised us. They had planned for this exact scenario. They had protocols in place for first contact going hostile. The hologram showed the chaos that ensued. Seemingly harmless satellites suddenly oriented themselves toward the Harbinger, revealing hidden weapon systems. Space stations that had appeared civilian began launching swarms of small, agile fighters. We had expected panic, confusion, perhaps a disorganized response. Instead, we witnessed a coordinated global defense strategy that had obviously been rehearsed. They had been preparing for extraterrestrial contact, hostile or otherwise, for generations. The Council watched in stunned silence as the human forces executed their defense. The Harbinger's shields, designed to withstand energy weapons, proved vulnerable to the kinetic impacts of mass-accelerated projectiles. Swarms of small craft exploited blind spots in the shield geometry that no known species had ever thought to target. Their tactics made no sense to us at first, Vexthol explained. They sacrificed expensive vessels to protect seemingly worthless positions, but each sacrifice had a purpose. They were mapping our capabilities, testing our responses, identifying our weaknesses. The hologram showed a particularly devastating moment. A human vessel, heavily damaged, spinning out of control toward the Harbinger. The Imperial ship's commanders, assuming it was disabled, ignored it to focus on more immediate threats. The supposedly crippled vessel suddenly corrected its course at the last moment, revealing its erratic movement had been intentional, and slammed into a critical shield generator. Within 3 hours of our arrival, Earth's combined military forces had effectively neutralized a vessel that outmassed their entire space fleet. They did it with inferior technology, limited resources, and what we thought were primitive weapons. But they had something we didn't. They had imagination. The scene shifted to show the aftermath. The Harbinger, once majestic, now scared and crippled, retreating from Earth orbit. But the humans didn't press their advantage. They held position, maintaining a defensive screen around their planet. Even in victory, they showed tactical wisdom. They didn't pursue us, didn't overextend their forces. They secured their objective, defending their planet, and prepared for our return. And return we did, with the 7th Fleet. You've seen how that ended. High Counselor Zinra's tentacles writhed in agitation. But surely this was a fluke. A single engagement. No, Vexthul interrupted firmly. This pattern has repeated itself in every engagement with humans. They're not just willing to fight. They'd spent their entire history preparing for conflicts they hadn't even encountered yet. Their entertainment media is filled with scenarios of alien invasion. They've been mentally rehearsing this war for centuries. The hologram shifted again, showing human historical records. They call it science fiction. Thousands of scenarios, exploring every possible way their world might be threatened. While we saw these as primitive fantasies, they were actually preparation. They had imagined and solved countless tactical scenarios before we ever arrived. A mechanoid representative's optical sensors flared. Are you suggesting they predicted our specific tactics? Better, Vexthul replied grimly. They had imagined thousands of possible tactics, including ones we hadn't considered ourselves. When we arrived, they already had theoretical counters to strategies we thought were innovative, and what they hadn't imagined, they adapted to with terrifying speed. The final images showed Earth's current state, a planet bristling with defenses, its orbit now protected by a mix of their original technology and reverse-engineered Imperial weapons. We didn't find a primitive species unprepared for galactic society. We found one that had been waiting for us, preparing for us, imagining every possible way to defeat us, and in trying to subjugate them, we've only made them stronger. The council chamber's lighting dimmed further as Vexthul brought up new holographic footage. A massive space station hung against the backdrop of Jupiter's swirling storms, its modular design distinctly human in its practical aesthetics. Hope Station, Vexthul announced, a research and mining facility operating in Jupiter's orbit. What happened there changed everything we thought we knew about human combat capability. The hologram zoomed in to show the station's crew going about their daily routines. Scientists analyzing data, engineers maintaining equipment, miners processing resources from Jupiter's moons. 342 humans, not soldiers, not warriors, civilian researchers and industrial workers. High Counselor Zinra's bioluminescence pulsed with impatience. What significance could a civilian research station possibly have? These civilians, Vexthul replied, his prosthetic arm projecting new images, held off an elite Imperial strike force for 27 days, with mining equipment and improvised weapons. The footage showed the Imperial attack fleet emerging from hyperspace. 12 warships, carrying over 5,000 trained warriors, surrounded the station. The commanding officer's transmission echoed through the chamber. Surrender immediately. Resistance is futile. The humans had no military vessels, no significant weapons. Their only defense was a basic shield designed to deflect meteoroids. Vexthul's mandibles clicked in what might have been admiration. They responded by broadcasting an entertainment recording. Human music. Something called Never Gonna Give You Up. Several council members shifted uncomfortably as the station's shields flared under the first assault. The Imperial ships deployed standard tactics, targeting power systems and life support. But the humans had already begun their counter-moves. Watch, Vexthul directed. See how they used their mining equipment. Those plasma drills, designed to cut through moon rock. They reversed the polarization, turning them into crude but effective point defense weapons. The mineral processing electromagnets became makeshift missile launchers, hurling chunks of refined metal at our ships. The hologram showed Imperial boarding parties breaching the station's outer hull, only to find the interior transformed. Every corridor had become a trap. Maintenance robots had been reprogrammed into autonomous defense drones. Atmospheric processors had been modified to create zones of lethal pressure differentials. They used their scientific knowledge as a weapon, Vexful continued. The chemists created improvised explosives. The physicists calculated precisely where to place their limited charges for maximum effect. The engineers transformed every system in that station into a defensive weapon. The Council watched as Imperial warriors, equipped with the finest battle armor in the galaxy, were repeatedly outmaneuvered by civilians using repurposed industrial tools. Look here, Vexthul highlighted a particular section. They vented specific compartments to create momentum, using the station itself as a massive thruster. They could dodge our targeting systems by moving the entire station. One council member, a being of pure energy, pulsed with confusion. But surely they couldn't maintain such resistance. The logistics. They grew their own food in the hydroponics labs. Vexthul interrupted. Recycled every drop of water. When we cut off their power, they rerouted energy from the mining equipment. Every time we thought we had them beaten, they found another solution. The hologram showed different scenes from the siege. Humans sleeping in shifts, constantly repairing damage, improvising new defenses. Their numbers dwindled, but their resistance never wavered. On the 27th day, relief finally arrived from Earth. But by then, the Imperial fleet had lost 4 ships and over 2,000 warriors to civilians using mining equipment. Vexthul's voice grew quieter. But here's what truly terrifies me about Hope Station. When we debriefed captured crew members, we learned something disturbing. They had enjoyed it. The challenge of survival, the need to improvise, the constant problem-solving. They found it exhilarating. Some of their greatest scientific breakthroughs came during the siege. The final footage showed the station's survivors being evacuated. They were exhausted, injured, but their eyes showed something that made even veteran council members uncomfortable. Pride. Satisfaction. The look of people who had discovered their own capabilities and were eager to test them again. The Empire lost more than ships and warriors at Hope Station. Vexthul concluded. We lost the myth of our technological superiority. Those civilians proved that humans don't need advanced weapons or military training to be lethal. They just need motivation and materials. They can turn anything into a weapon, any situation into an opportunity. The hologram faded, leaving the council chamber in uneasy darkness. After Hope Station, humans began deliberately building their facilities to serve dual purposes. Every civilian installation became a potential fortress. Every tool became a potential weapon. And every citizen became a potential warrior. High Counselor Zinra's tentacles had gone pale. Surely you exaggerate. No species could be so adaptable. That's exactly what the commander of the Imperial fleet thought. Vexthul replied. He died when a human scientist figured out how to turn the station's water reclamation system into a plasma weapon. His last words were, impossible. The humans proved him wrong. The council chamber's bioluminescent walls shifted to a deep purple as Vexthul's prosthetic arm projected new images. This time, they showed something unexpected. Humans and aliens working together on a distant outpost. What you're seeing is Forward Station Nexus, Vexthul explained. A joint operation established by rogue elements from both sides. Those who saw potential in cooperation rather than conflict. The hologram focused on a particular scene. Human engineers collaborating with mechanoid technicians, their combined expertise creating hybrid technologies that neither species could have developed alone. Nearby, a Kralnik crystalline being interfaced with human quantum computers, processing data at unprecedented speeds. While the Empire focused on subduing humanity, these individuals discovered something revolutionary. Humans don't just adapt to warfare. They adapt to everything. Their minds seek out challenges, puzzles, problems to solve. And when they collaborate, their potential increases exponentially. A skeptical murmur rippled through the council. High Counselor Zinra's tentacles coiled tightly. Are you suggesting we should trust these warriors with our technology? They already have it, Vexful countered. But look how differently they use it when we work together instead of against each other. The hologram showed a human medical team working with alien biotechnology, developing treatments that could save lives across multiple species. They turn weapons into tools, military technology into civilian applications. The display shifted to another scene, a diplomatic meeting between human representatives and various alien factions. The humans weren't adopting alien customs. Instead, they were finding ways to bridge cultural gaps, creating new protocols that respected both sides' traditions. But not everyone sees this potential. Vexful continued, his tone growing darker. The hologram changed to show military buildups along the borders of human space. Hardliners in the Empire view these developments with alarm. They argue that every moment we delay allows humans to grow stronger, to adapt more of our technology, to become an even greater threat. The Council watched as footage showed an Imperial hardliner faction launching a surprise attack on a joint human-alien research facility. But instead of the expected destruction, they witnessed something unprecedented: humans and aliens fighting side by side, protecting each other with the same fierce determination humans had previously shown in defending their own. This incident proved something crucial. Vexful's voice carried across the chamber. Humans don't just fight for their own survival, they fight for their allies with equal ferocity. The Empire's attack didn't drive them apart from their alien colleagues. It forged stronger bonds. A mechanoid representative's optical sensors flared. The data suggests increased risk. Human unpredictability combined with advanced technology is exactly what we need. Vexful interrupted. Look at this. The hologram displayed a series of technological breakthroughs. Human intuition combined with alien precision, creating innovations neither species had imagined possible. They don't think like us. They make connections we would never consider. They try things we would dismiss as impossible. The chamber filled with images of joint achievements, terraforming projects advancing at unprecedented rates, medical breakthroughs saving lives across species barriers, faster-than-light drive systems reimagined through human creativity and alien expertise. But the Empire's hardliners see only the military implications. Vexful continued. They're planning a full-scale assault, believing they can overwhelm humanity before these collaborations bear fruit. They're wrong. All they'll do is prove to every human that cooperation with aliens is possible, and that some of us can be trusted as allies. The hologram showed the aftermath of a recent skirmish. Human ships providing cover for retreating alien civilian vessels, sacrificing themselves to save non-human lives. They don't just fight like no other species. They forge alliances like no other species. Once humans decide you're their friend, they'll defend you as one of their own. High Counselor Zinra's bioluminescence flickered thoughtfully. You believe this makes them more dangerous, not less. Exactly, Vexful confirmed. A human fighting for survival is dangerous. A human fighting to protect others is unstoppable. And right now, thanks to these cooperative ventures, thousands of humans have formed personal bonds with members of other species. The final images showed the growing network of joint human-alien operations, research stations, colonies, trade routes. The Empire faces a choice, Vexful declared. We can continue our attempts to subjugate humanity and watch as more of our own people choose to ally with them, or we can acknowledge reality. Humans are not our enemies unless we force them to be. The council chamber fell into deep silence as the implications sank in. The Empire wasn't just facing a military challenge, it was facing a philosophical one. The very principles that had guided galactic civilization for millennia were being questioned, all because of one species' unique approach to conflict and cooperation. The council chamber's lighting had shifted to a deep, contemplative blue as Vexful prepared to deliver his final observations. The holographic display showed a series of images: imperial military academies being reorganized, diplomatic protocols being rewritten, even the fundamental structure of the Empire's hierarchy beginning to change. What you're witnessing, Vexthul said, his voice carrying the weight of revelation, is not just adaptation to a new enemy. It's the evolution of our entire civilization, catalyzed by humanity's influence. The hologram focused on an imperial military training facility, where traditional rigid formations were being replaced by more flexible, adaptive units. We've spent millennia perfecting our military doctrine, believing it represented the pinnacle of martial evolution. Then humans showed us that perfection is the enemy of survival. Scenes played out showing imperial forces adopting human-inspired tactics, smaller, more autonomous units, emphasis on individual initiative, integration of civilian expertise into military operations. But the changes run deeper than mere tactics, Vexthul continued. Humanity has forced us to question our most basic assumptions about power and progress. High Counselor Zinra stirred, her tentacles moving in complex patterns of concern. You speak of fundamental changes to our society, all because of one species. Because of what that species showed us about ourselves, Vexthul corrected. The hologram shifted to show the Empire's traditional hierarchy, alongside emerging new structures. We built our civilization on the principle of perfect order. Humans thrive in chaos, and they're proving that chaos, properly embraced, can be more powerful than order. The display showed examples. Imperial research teams adopting human brainstorming techniques, producing more innovations in months than they had in years. Diplomatic corps learning to improvise rather than follow rigid protocols. Military units discovering that flexibility could overcome superior firepower. The most dramatic change, Vexthul noted, as the hologram showed new joint human-alien ventures, is in how we view cooperation. We always saw alliances as arrangements of convenience between superior and inferior partners. Humans see them as relationships between equals, each bringing unique strengths to the partnership. The Council watched as footage showed the results of this approach. Hybrid technologies that combine multiple species innovations, diplomatic breakthroughs achieved through informal conversations rather than formal negotiations, and military victories won through unprecedented cooperation between different species. But here's what truly terrifies the Empire's traditionalists. Vexthul continued, his prosthetic arm projecting new data. These changes are spreading beyond our military and diplomatic spheres. Our people are beginning to ask questions. If humans can improvise solutions we never imagined, what else might we be wrong about? The hologram displayed scenes of cultural exchange. Alien youth adopting human music and art forms, imperial citizens engaging in human-style debates and discussions, even traditional imperial architecture beginning to show human influences in its design. We face a choice, Vexthul declared. We can continue fighting against these changes, expending massive resources in a war we increasingly cannot win, or we can do something unprecedented in imperial history. We can learn from those we once dismissed as primitive. The chamber erupted in murmurs as Vexthul projected his final pieces of evidence. Statistical analyses showing increased efficiency in operations that adopted human-inspired methods. Economic projections demonstrating the potential benefits of full cooperation, and security assessments warning of the devastating consequences of continued conflict. Humanity's greatest weapon isn't their adaptability in warfare, Vexthul concluded. It's their ability to change how others think. They don't just defeat their enemies, they transform them. Every conflict with humans leaves us different, and those differences are spreading through our civilization like a virus of ideas. High Counselor Zinra's bioluminescence had taken on a new pattern, one that indicated deep thought. You believe we cannot prevent these changes. I believe we shouldn't try, Vexthul responded. For millennia, we've prided ourselves on our unchanging stability. Humans pride themselves on constant evolution. And in our conflict with them, they've proven which approach is stronger. The hologram faded, leaving the council chamber in contemplative darkness. We stand at a crossroads, Vexthul's voice carried across the silence. We can embrace change and evolution, learning to thrive in uncertainty as humans do. Or we can cling to our traditional ways and watch as more of our people choose adaptation over stagnation. He gestured to his prosthetic arm, now incorporating both imperial and human technology. I lost this arm fighting humans. Its replacement teaches me something every day. That sometimes, losing a part of yourself makes room for something better. Perhaps it's time for the Empire to learn the same lesson. The council chamber remained silent long after Vexthul finished speaking. The Empire had faced many challenges in its long history, but never one that struck at the very foundations of its civilization. The question was no longer whether to fight or negotiate with humans. It was whether their civilization could adapt enough to survive contact with a species that turned everything, even defeat, into an opportunity for growth.